The locally produced film Madison County was released to DVD and digital download this week. This You Don't Belong Around Here slasher film is set in rural Madison County and was shot on location all over northwest Arkansas. I recently had the opportunity to go to one of the filming locations and talk to writer, director, and producer Eric England and actor Collie Bailey, who portrayed James in the film.
And a lot of people say, you know, Madison County is a Texas Chainsaw ripoff or whatever, but when you get into the meat of it, it's really not. And some of the best reviews I've read about the movie are the people who paid attention to little details and saw why it's different. Right. You know, some people put it on in the background and they don't pay attention to the movie. Yeah, it's going to look like a ripoff. But as a young filmmaker, I had to get myself noticed. So I had to make something that looked familiar enough, but I wanted to get extra jobs, so I wanted people to see, wow, this guy can do something different.
Some of the press surrounding the movie says that it was inspired by true events.
You know, obviously there's no pig head wearing maniac running through Madison County that I know of. Yeah. You know, when I was growing up, you know, going to my grandpa's house in Madison County and stuff, I just encountered some really weird characters. And you know, there's a scene in the movie where the guys and girls in the movie, they're taking a picture of the diner for their, you know, their project that they're there for, and this guy walks up and kind of pulls a knife on them and tells them to leave. And you know, that didn't verbatim happen to me, but I was taking pictures for the movie to put together for an investment package, and I took some pictures of this gas station, and this guy comes walking out to me. He's like, what are you taking pictures of? What are you doing? And I just kind of told him what I was doing. He didn't believe me. He's like, yeah, movie, right? You know, what are you doing? I looked like paparazzi with my lens and everything. I stayed in my car, you know. So I probably looked really sketchy, but anyways, the guy just kind of tried to run me off and whatever. And then a week later, you know, my grandpa had told me that same guy, and it was actually like out of a movie, because while I was taking the pictures, I saw the guy walk out, and I was like, all right, here comes this guy to talk to me. But when I got back to my grandpa's house, my grandpa was like, do you remember who it was? And I pulled out the pictures, and I was like, no. I was like, maybe you'll recognize his truck, you know? So I was like, I started punching in, and I actually saw like his face like through the glass. So we actually, like, after I zoomed into the picture, I was like, that's the guy. You know, it was literally like something out of a movie, and I kind of put that in the movie too. But you know, it just happened like that. My grandpa told me that guy, you know, got arrested for pulling a gun on somebody a week after I was there, just for smarting off to him, you know. So it's just one of those things. It's like I never wanted to like say, oh, bad people live in Madison County. It's just like anywhere else. There's bad people live in L.A. and I'm from L.A. or I live in L.A. But
so the story developed as you were setting up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even up until the day of shooting, like things were just kind of inspiring the movie. But you know, it just the main thing that inspired the movie was kind of like the you know, we don't get our hands dirty theme that goes through the movie that I was telling you about.
Speaking of the pig head wearing maniac.
Okay, so what's the story with Damien's The Mask?
Woo Pig Suey. It's
no other reason, huh?
Yeah, there's a couple reasons. You know, it didn't have to be a pig. It could have just as easily been a deer or a cow or anything else that you'd find on a farm. You know, the Damien in Madison County is a guy. He's a real person. He's not Michael Myers. He's not Jason Voorhees. He's not, you know, Freddy Krueger. He's a real guy that grew up on a farm and grew up in a certain way that made him into the person he is today. And you know, because of that, I wanted to have, you know, a threat in this movie that was grounded in reality and felt real. So to me, when this guy needed to hide his hideous, disfigured face, he looked to what was around him. It could have just as easily been, you know, tree bark or, you know, whatever he could have found. It's just I chose a pig because of the Arkansas Razorbacks, and pigs are on farms, so it all felt cohesive to me.
One of the major locations was an historic diner in Oark.
How did you all find it?
I'm going to have to, Ace Marrero's going to kill me if I don't give him credit for this. Google. I love Google. You know, we were looking for a gas station, and I had a few in mind, just, you know, driving through Madison County, but none of them really felt old-timey enough for me. You know, I was looking for a really specific aesthetic, and a lot of them just felt too modern. You know, they had these modern pumps, and you walk inside, they just felt like everyday gas stations. And going along with the theme of like there's something off about Madison County, you know, there's something a little left of straight, you know what I'm saying? And it's like that's what I wanted to portray, is just these people are a little weird and everywhere you go is a little weird, and I didn't want something that felt too familiar and normal. So basically, my key PA, Jordan Mears, and I, we were driving around scouting locations, and we ended up, you know, Ace Googled this place and found it, and I had run across it before, and I just didn't know how realistic it was. It's a historical landmark, and I was like, there's no way in hell they're going to let it, there's no way they're going to let, I did that last time the news interviewed me while we were shooting. After the guys came out, I said like a really dirty word.
Magic of editing, come on.
Yeah, I know. They actually cut in my reaction. I was like, I'm going to try and watch my language. Anyways, you know, I was like, there's no way they're going to let us shoot here. It's a national landmark. And so anyways, we ended up just driving up, and I walk in, and the moment I walked in, I was like, this is a movie. This is where this happens. This is like, everything in here is perfect. It's like going into another world when you go into that diner.
Let me ask you something. Why does everyone here have a staring problem?
Well, it's because we don't get many strangers around here.
So much about
There
the
was a
diner,
lot about
even in
it,
the
yeah.
movie where Coley's running back up to the diner after being run off this bridge. I cut to, I got a little second unit of this sign that says, "It's okay, my mama eats here," and it's like,
Yeah.
it gets one of the biggest laughs whenever you
remember
watch a
that
movie
sign.
in a theater, because it's just, you know, it's one of those like polarizing moments of juxtaposition with really horrible things happening and
Yeah.
a little bit of dark humor. And it's like, I feel like that's what that entire diner was to me. It's like, it's okay to stop and eat here. I know it looks a little creepy, but my mama eats here. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's
Yeah.
like, that to me just epitomized the entire location. But the movie magic about it all is we walked out of that location, and I was just high on life. I was like telling my PA, I was like, dude, I was like, it's all downhill from here, because we just found this amazing, it was the first place I scouted too, because I wrote the movie around all these locations, and I'm kind of an insecure filmmaker when I don't have a location. It's like,
Right.
you don't know where you're shooting, and I'm like, I have to find this. So I found one of our key set pieces, but then I had to find a junkyard, and you know what I'm talking about, the scene
Yeah.
of the junkyard. And I was like, in the script, the junkyard's literally like around the bend, you know, it's right down the road. Well, if you go to that diner right now, you drive 500 yards past it, there's a junkyard
Yeah.
off
yeah.
to the side, and it was as
It's
if
perfect,
It was
too.
as if I'd
Perfect.
written for this location, and it was another movie moment where I was talking to Jordan. I was like, it's not gonna get it. I'm never gonna find a junkyard, and there it was. And his jaw hit the floor. He was like, "There's no way that this is real," and I was like, so we ended up, you know, we actually, a funny story, real quick. We didn't have permission to shoot there, and we didn't get in touch with the owner about shooting there until the first day of shooting, and then he showed up while we were shooting. He sees big grip trucks and lights and cameras, and he shows up. Thank you. No, you're fine. And so he shows up, and I was like, great. I was like, I don't want to send anybody from out of town over there, these LA kids. Like, I'm from Arkansas, I need to go handle this. So I went over there and talked to him, and I was like, hey, we're shooting a movie here. You cool with that? You know, and he was just so nice and super nice, very polite. You know, he was like, you need a location down there? There's a swimming hole that way, and there's a house that way. Like, he was just the greatest guy in the world, so.
This bridge in Elkins was the site of one of the most physically taxing scenes for Collie.
Okay, well, so there's this scene in the movie where I'm running across this bridge, and there's a truck behind me, and you'll see me slip and roll out of the way of the truck. That's actually a real slip, because this loose gravel, I was supposed to get here and jump to a mat that was over here and dive out of the way, but this gravel actually made me tumble off the edge here. So when you see that in the movie, it's actually a real fall. Hey!
Arkansas is beginning to become noticed in the film community as an ideal location to shoot.
I mean, Arkansas has so much production value. Like, look at this bridge.
Yeah.
It would cost $1 million to build this thing if it wasn't already established. And you know, the
Same with the diner.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
diner.
you could pay half $500,000 to build one of those in a soundstage or something.
Well, and you can't beat realism.
No.
Yeah, and that, I mean, for me personally, I'm a big, like, Tim Burton fan, but, you know, I like, you know, movies that have an air of fantasy and stuff, but for me, the movies I want to make are grounded in reality. You know, you want to feel that, you know, these people and the situations are real. So, you know, walking into a diner, being able to touch it, knowing that there's food being cooked behind the counter, you know, it's none of that fake Hollywood stuff where it's like there's lights up above you and this and that. Like, it was real. So everything that the actors were walking into was a real situation for the most part.
You wouldn't be able to do a movie on that budget in very many places.
Right.
But we didn't have to pay for locations here. And for how many locations we had and how far we had to drive for it, I mean...
Yeah, I have a saying as an indie filmmaker, it's important to put the money on the screen, and and a lot of other places you don't have to, you don't get an opportunity to do that because you're paying, tons of money for locations, and it's like that goes on the screen, but it's like really what it means by putting the money on the screen is make sure you have enough time to shoot your scenes and do this, and that was one of the luxuries, thankfully, we were afforded by shooting in Arkansas, is because we were able to save a little money on the practicalities of things while we were filming here. It afforded us more time to shoot,
Which time being that we're on the Elkins Superhighway right here would come in very handy. This was a lower budget movie, and even with that, Eric is happy with the finished product.
There's probably, honestly, this is going to sound cheesy, but I probably wouldn't change anything because it's about the experience and it's about the movie we made, I mean, are there things I wish I could go back and do? Yeah, absolutely, but I'm not like George Lucas where I'm going to keep tweaking the movie for the next 20 years, It's like nothing's ever going to be perfect, and that's kind of what I've learned at an early age as a filmmaker is it's not about right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's just yes or no. It's how many yeses can you get over no's, It's the majority thing.
And as with most movies, life on the set can be an adventure for the cast and crew as well.
We don't have the budget to be, giving you big trailers and stuff like that. Like, this is a rugged, get your hands dirty kind of movie. Yeah. And so that kind of set the tone and the standard for the type of movie we were making, But we had, it was a very family type atmosphere on set because, we were all essentially living under the same roof, so we had no choice but to bond. But there's a couple of YouTube videos of people playing pranks on one another, and Ace is a big prankster, so he's always trying to mess with people, and
and we were in the woods all the time, and I point out, oh, this is what this plant is, and this is what this plant is, and they're like, what are you, a Boy Scout? Come on. I'm like, well, I grew up in Arkansas, so.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so funny how, people from Arkansas, they don't realize what you can and can't do here. Yeah. I'm like, for instance, when we were shooting this scene, I grabbed my DP, I said, let's go put the camera right there in the middle of the river, and he was like, can't do that. I was like, yeah, we can. We just take off our shoes and walk across, and, I was like, what? You gonna get a little wet? It's okay, it's not a big deal. So that was the kind of movie, throwing Coley on a bridge and almost running him over and putting a camera in the middle of water, and it's just one of those things. It's like everything on camera was real for the most part.
Yeah, and there
Ace had to jump off the top of that waterfall, like that was all real too.
Yeah, and there was a lot of, and it all takes place during the day too, which I mean it was hot. Yeah. It was really hot. Everybody was sweating and. It wasn't. There wasn't a lot of glamour to it.
I think there is an element of dementia just with the sun and the heat and the elements. Like I remember by the end of some of the days, I was just like looking up. I felt like I'd been in the Sahara. Like all the humidity and it was just not that it's humid in the desert, but I felt like I had been exposed to these elements for days. And one of my favorite days on set was we were doing a death scene for one of the people, and the camera had blood sprayed all over it, and we were shooting the scene, and the camera's down here, and we told them, we're like, you guys need to wrap the camera. It's a $150,000 camera. Like, we don't own it. You got to protect it. So they didn't put a bag on it. No, it'll be okay. All right, whatever. So I shoot the scene, and on the first take, blood everywhere, all over the camera, and the cinematographer is just losing it. Like, he is freaking out. There's blood inside the camera, there's blood on the lens, and it's that syrupy corn syrup and stuff. And I just remember, I was like, I should have been freaking out, but I was just so like nuts by that time. It was one of the last shots. I was just laughing, and I was like, it looks great. We actually used the shot in the movie because I was like, we got blood on the lens. Who cares? It looks great. And I just remember being, it was just, it kind of made me relax because everyone else was freaking out. And I walked up to my actress and I was like, that looked great. I can't, thank you so much for doing that. And, and she was freaking out because my cinema, he was like, the camera, and like, we got to redo it. And she was freaking out. But it was just one of the, a lot of the blood stuff was fun because that, making a horror movie, even if the movie's scary or tense or brooding or dark, whatever you want to say, you know, it's a lot of fun to make. There's a lot of jokes on set.
But all the actors were really great to work with. I mean, we were really a team, and when the camera wasn't on somebody, we were all still in the scene together.
Yeah.
Nobody was, you know.
No one did their own thing.
Yeah, nobody was cutting out or, you know, halfway doing their lines or whatever. The scenes happened every single take, and I couldn't have asked for better people to work with.
Yeah,
for sure.
the actors were great.
Madison County may not be the only time we catch a glimpse of killer Damian Ewell.
Madison County, the first movie was always meant to be, when I first wrote the story, I kind of wanted to write the origin story of Madison County about, you know, the main people we introduce in this town. And, you know, we just didn't have the budget to do what would have probably been a period piece and, you know, just a bigger scale of a movie. And so I had to trim it down. The movie I originally wrote, you know, we budgeted out and it just didn't even come close to what we ended up shooting this movie for. So I was like, all right, I got to scale it back. But, you know, even this movie, you know, the budget I originally had was like 3 times bigger than what we actually ended up spending. So, you know, it's just, you got to adapt. But I've always kind of had this, what I call Madison County timeline, and Madison County 1 takes place like right in the middle. Okay. So, you know, there's a much bigger picture out there that I've always wanted to explore. And
even though Madison County's behind them for the time being, Eric and Collie are not standing still.
I love the genre. I mean, I've obviously done 2. I did Donner Pass, I did Madison County. I've got a zombie film that I really want to bring to Arkansas. It's under wraps right now. I can't really discuss it. But I've also got a movie that is more of a sci-fi political drama that I'm working on. It's called Worldline, the story of Talon Evans. You can check it out at worldlinemovie.com.
Okay.
And I'm producing that. I wrote it, I'm going to act in it, and I'm bringing it to Arkansas. That's why I'm back in Arkansas, is to produce that film.
I got another movie that I shot about 4 months after Madison County finished shooting. You know, we come off a lot of buzz, which was great for us as filmmakers, and we had people approaching us about, like, what do you want to do next? And I'm not really one of those filmmakers that looks for validation, like, oh, hey, you made a good movie, go make your next one. It's like, no, I'll make 3 before the first one comes out, or I wanted to, you know? So we were very fortunate that people approached us about doing a next one. So we wrapped Madison County in September, late September 2010, and by the end of March 2011, we were shooting the next movie. It's called Roadside. It's more of like a Hitchcockian thriller about a man and his pregnant wife held hostage on the side of a road by a guy they can't see. And very suspenseful, very, you know, it's completely shot at night, so it's the exact opposite of Madison County on the genre spectrum. But you know, it's a movie I'm really proud about. It's a much more mature film as a filmmaker, and it's getting ready to go make its festival debut probably here later in the year. We're finishing it up right now. It'll be finished in June.
Madison County made its world debut at the annual horror film festival Screamfest at Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood.
Honestly, it's probably been the best night of my life, if I can be completely honest. It was just kind of a whirlwind experience of, like, submitting the movie at the last minute. We had already been in talks with a lot of distributors at that point. How you doing? And you know, it was one of those things where we didn't know if we would get in. You know, we hoped we had a good chance, because Screamfest is a pretty big festival, and it's where Paranormal Activity was discovered, and you know, it holds a lot of weight, not only in the film community, but in the horror film community. You know, I can't remember what the prestigious title is, but I think it's the biggest in the country or North America or maybe even the world. I can't remember, but it's up there. And you know, we found out we got in, so we were really excited and, you know, in a hurry to kind of finish the final touches on the movie and stuff. And then you know, we just started promoting it as much as we could, and then a couple nights before the premiere, they were like, yeah, you guys are like the second in ticket sales. Like, it's like a 500-seat theater. That's great for sound. It was like a 500-seat theater in the middle of Hollywood at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and you know, moving to LA, like, that was one of the first theaters I ever visited. So to find out the movie was going to be played there was, you know, groundbreaking for me. And so basically, we found out one of a friend's movie that we had, you know, met there at the festival. They were like, yeah, we sold out, like, you know, 320 seats or something. That was amazing. We were just hoping to get close to that, and we were behind them. And then the night before the festival, they were like, yeah, you guys are in, like, late 300s, you know, something like that. And we're like, okay, cool, you know, we'll do it. And then the night of the premiere,
we're kind of standing around the lobby, and like a few people are showing up, and I'm like, okay, this might get busy. And then just this wave of people showed up, and the next thing I know, we had more than 500 people there, and there weren't enough seats, and they had to turn people down, and they had to bring in extra chairs to sit in the aisle. And like the guy who directed Saw at Insidious is a buddy of mine. He had to scalp a ticket to get in, and like, you know, I'm like, this guy's worth millions of dollars, and he's, you know, scalping tickets to get into our little indie film. But we ended up being the only movie to sell out the entire festival, and they had big movies there, you know, that were multi-million-dollar studio films, and, you know, hot indie films that, you know, are breaking records left and right. And
in the historic theater too.
Yeah, in the historic theater. And our little, you know, movie, the smallest movie in the festival, was the only one to sell out. So, and we had like less than 36 hours to turn around and be given an encore screening. We still got, you know, 150, 200 people in the theater for that, you know, follow-up screening. Yeah. And, you know, so it was really kind of a magical night of, you know, not only, you know, for me, not only for me as a filmmaker, you know, it was really cool, and I was kind of a zombie the entire night because I was so nervous. But you know, just my parents were there, and you know, a lot of our friends and family and the actors and stuff. Like, it was just a really cool experience of just, you know, finally seeing everything that we've worked so hard to make be presented right there on one of the biggest screens you can find in the middle of, you know, the film industry. So it was a really cool experience.
Madison County is available right now in stores across the country, as well as most places online, including Amazon, YouTube, Netflix, and iTunes.
We've been really fortunate for how small of a movie we are to be getting the placement we are, you know. So I'm